Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and we're back with another archetype to review. And I really do need to amp up the number of archetype videos in a week. Otherwise, I'm never gonna catch up. A new book comes out, even an adventure module, and I fall a month behind. It's rough. And Pathfinder or Paizo specifically keeps pumping out more and more stuff. It's crazy, but regardless, I do thoroughly enjoy doing this, and these videos are honestly not that bad. If it can increase the number of videos in a week, I don't know. As long as I can get these done in a timely fashion, we may just see more videos in the week, and I'm sure everyone would love some of that. And as well, we're also going to be keeping up some of the other interesting videos, like build videos, and I'm going to start doing some discussion videos as well. So, if you're interested in all that, you can subscribe to see more videos along those lines, or you could at least like this video if you enjoy seeing these ones to help with the algorithm. Everyone talks about it all the time. Or you can join our Discord linked down below, where you can get a notification every time a video comes out 100% of the time, which is pretty good. Or you could hit the bell. I suppose does the same thing, but the Discord's cool. We got a lot of cool things going on in the Discord, actually. People are making games, people are writing down their builds for Pathfinder. It's really, really awesome. And, I guess that's the end of the spiel. I don't know what I thought there was something else, but no. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about a very interesting archetype from one of the adventure modules. In fact, I think from the first set of adventure modules, the first adventure path, Age of Ashes. I might be wrong. It's the first for Pathfinder's 2nd edition, I do believe, but I'll probably be corrected in the comments below. But it is a very interesting one indeed. The Crystal Keeper is a archetype dedicated around the exploration of elven magic before Earthfall, with use of powerful crystals as foci for a lot of their abilities. It's very interesting, though a very short and kind of simple archetype dedication. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I do want to say this is from the Age of Ashes adventure path, so if you do not want any spoilers of that, well, here's your spoiler warning. You can click off the video now until you get past this part. I think it happens in the 3rd book, if I'm not mistaken. But for those of you brave enough to see into the depths, we're going to be looking at the Crystal Keeper archetype dedication here, which shows that you do require, well, it's a rare archetype dedication, which is interesting because I don't know exactly the reason why other than lore implications. And another thing as well, this one doesn't have access like other kind of, I don't know. You have to remember that when you're looking at this archetype dedication, it is one of the first archetype dedications that came out for Pathfinder 2E after the initial multi-class archetype dedications. So this, I think, even predates the Advanced Player's Guide as well, which actually had the other multi-class or the other archetype dedications in the first place. So this is definitely their first run, and it very much shows. This is a rare archetype dedication, but has no particular access. It doesn't even tell you how you can get access to it or why it's rare in the first place. My assumption is you have to get in with these Crystal Keepers to learn their ways, more or less, for lore reason wise. Now, you also have to be trained in either society or elven lore. I believe it's just trained, right? Yep. And that's pretty easy, honestly. And it's a level 4 feat, which is very strange, considering that it doesn't even give you any skill increases. And it does give you a resistance, but it's very niche. So what it does is you can use any of the knowledge-based skills, essentially Arcana, Occultism, Religion, or Society, to decipher writing by mediating before a crystal, regardless of the type of writing. And when you're deciphering writing, if you get a crit fail, you get a failure instead. And when you get a success, you get a crit roll and crit success instead. Powerful effects if decipher writing is something that shows up in your games, but overall very niche in situation. As well, you gain 10 resistance to hazards caused by crystals, which you can imagine doesn't happen a lot of the time, or at all in some campaigns. But it's still interesting, and I like the fact that both of these things are included in the archetype dedication. You don't have to take a feat for that 10 resistance, for instance. So, honestly, I have really nothing to complain about, but I don't think it should be level 4, nor do I think this should be a rare archetype, but, we'll see with the other feats, and you can make a judgment for yourself. The next feat up here on the list is the Crystal Ward spell, and you're just gonna have to ignore like a lot of what's written here because, well, not ignore, obviously don't ignore, but like they're just explaining how focus points work. And it's very detailed, and this does not happen with a lot of later archetypes because later archetypes, they assume you already know what focus spells are, though they may give you a brief description as to what they might do or add. This goes way too into detail on how focus points even work, and a lot of the text here is just talking about how focus points work, which is super unnecessary. The only thing you need to know is that you gain a focus point and you gain access to the electrified Crystal Ward focus spell, which is a focus spell that allows you to create an electric latch rune as a hazard on a lock or latch. And that's it. You can use your spellcasting DC or class DC, I believe. Nope, it's just your spell DC for any of the hazards listed. So when you create this latch, it uses your DC rather than the initial one, which is good. And not only that, but as it focuses every odd spell level, it increases the damage by a D12. Overall, it's not a very exciting archetype dedication, honestly. Or not dedication, but it's not an exciting feat, honestly, or focus spell. I mean, it could be useful, but I will say that you get a focus point out of it and you gain a utility. This one I would pick up if you're playing a class that uses focus points, but you don't necessarily want to invest in your focus point feats. This would be the way to go, especially if you're using the bonus archetype rule, which I recommend every table use, especially with like the side rule that I have where you can only use non-multi-class archetypes for it. I think it really diversifies gameplay and it makes something like this a lot more valuable because you get a focus point and an interesting focus spell. But that's it. Otherwise, it's not a very interesting feat. Next up is Simple Crystal Magic, and it's a very strange one, and another feat has not come up like this ever. And by that, I mean what it does is, as long as you have a gemstone worth at least 10 gold pieces, you can, during your daily preparations, focus on it to gain access to the sigil and read aura cantrip every day. The crystal thing makes sense, kind of, but again, this doesn't happen in any other archetypes really, because requiring the player to have a 10 gold piece foci essentially to use 2 cantrips is just kind of unheard of. It's very strange, and they tell you that these are arcane cantrips and that they heighten as per normal, yada yada, but that's it. There's nothing else special. It's just you get access to 2 cantrips as long as you have access to a 10 gold piece gemstone. So it's interesting, but I don't know. This would be good as like the initial dedication feat, honestly, and the deciphering part could be something else. Resistance to crystal, I would even be willing to give up if they made the deciphering stuff all like a skill check. I don't know. It's very strange, honestly. Very interesting, honestly. But yeah, so simple crystal magic is very much that. It's very simple, though it requires a focus for some reason. All right. The last 2 feats, I think, are the real bread and butter of what makes this archetype dedication actually something worth picking up. At least as a bonus archetype, as I mentioned before. Armor Rune Shifter and Weapon Rune Shifter. I'll talk about them in order and you'll see them here on screen as I'm talking about them. But more or less what these feats do is once per day when you're making your daily preparations. So essentially it's just when you're making your daily preparations. The once per day thing really doesn't make sense other than the fact that I guess with weapon rune shifter, if you have multiple weapons, you can only do it on one weapon. So, but once per day, when you make your daily preparations, you can focus on a rune's magical energies through a crystal facet to alter a single property rune on one suit of armor in your possession to suppress its normal effects and make it function as a different property rune. So essentially what that means is you look through a crystal, you focus on a rune that your armor has. So your armor does need to have property runes, and you can then change it to energy resistant, fortification, glamored, invisibility, shadow, or slick. Now, the property rune remains altered until your next daily preparations, and the armor must meet the prerequisites, so you can't put shadow on a heavy armor piece, for instance, or I think slick. No, I don't know. Fortification on light armor, for instance. That's another good example right there. The armor must meet the prerequisites for the rune, and other runes that require the suppress rune are also suppressed. They never, I don't think, added unless, I don't know, maybe that's a rule. I always thought you upgraded to greater runes and you didn't need the prior one, but maybe you do need, I don't know. They never, as far as I know, they never have runes require other runes to work. So that's very weird wording, but maybe they were just trying to future-proof, and that's just something that never came up. I don't know. Very interesting nonetheless. And these runes are obviously altered, so if you try to sell them, you can't say alter it to a more costly rune and then try to pawn it off to get a better deal, more or less. It looks obvious, and they probably won't even buy the armor until the rune no longer looks tampered with. Now, the weapon rune is the same thing, more or less. It gives you access to corrosive, flaming, frost, ghost touch, grievous, returning, shock, thundering, and wounding. The basic set, more or less. And that's it. That's what these do. They do the same thing for either armor or weapon. You can only do one of each per day. But this does give you the ability to more flexibly change your runes as you deem fit. If you're going into a haunted house, for instance, and you know ahead of time when you make your daily preparations, you can set up a ghost rune. If you're going up against a dragon, you might want to change your armor to energy resistant against a particular type of energy that the dragon might have as its breath weapon. This overall makes the dedication really good, actually, because this archetype allows you to be more flexible with your runes. Some of the other feats are a little weird, and they don't do a lot. Cantrips, I guess, are nice if you don't have access to cantrips normally. But other than that, I don't know. It's just, they're like the energy latch rune, again, it's great for a bonus archetype feat if you just are looking to get a focus point. But without that, the rune is the spell itself is not that interesting, though you can at least have one latch up at a given time until it's activated. If you cast it again, it goes away. So this allows you, and you can refresh that focus point, and nothing says that refreshing it doesn't end the rune, which is nice. It's interesting. You can set up maybe a way to prevent enemies from joining a combat, or at least joining a combat without suffering injury. I don't know. This archetype dedication is very interesting, very little weird, but I like it. And as far as bonus archetypes are concerned, this is a really good one, especially with the ability to change an armor rune and a weapon rune every day. That's really good. That's very high flexibility, and other classes need to spend focus points on stuff like that. And yeah, so I mean, like, those two feats in general would make me want to pick this up as a flavor thing for a character, or as just an added bit of utility if I didn't have a stronger build that needs another archetype dedicated to it. But other than that, it's kind of like a mid-tier, which is fine, honestly. This one has a lot of interesting lore implications. Obviously, it fits the adventure path for Age of Ashes, so I'm sure there's a lot of value that can be found there. But, you know, this is what it is. Y'all can make a decision on what you think about it. I personally like it. I think it's a really good, maybe CB tier, you know, like a good low B tier kind of archetype. Being able to swap your runes is really nice. And hey, if deciphering comes up a lot, the initial dedication fee is actually surprisingly really helpful. But, you know, other than that, I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you like the archetype. We'll be looking into some more, probably optimal ones here soon. We've been doing a lot of these kind of story specific archetypes recently, to some comedic effect, I'm sure, but we'll get into some more of the standard good archetype dedications that work with actual like building theory soon, I promise. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and end it. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.